The gruesome 1978 murder of 60s sitcom star Bob Crane remains unsolved.
Officially, the case remains unsolved, but Bob Crane's son says he thinks Carpenter may have done it.
Carpenter did this.
He's the guy.
No doubt.
No doubt.
With a charm that could light up any screen, Bob Crane took over Hollywood like a storm. The star of Hogan's Heroes captivated millions, but behind the spotlight, he lived a secret, obsessive life, one so hidden it was shrouded in mystery. With fame came power, and with power came danger, and its end was as shadowed as the secrets he kept. Now, the Bob Crane story has finally been unraveled, and the truth is darker than anyone could have imagined. The rise of Bob Crane. Bob Crane was, by all accounts, America's favorite prisoner of war. He was the face of Colonel Hogan, the handsome, clean-cut, and likable leader of the Allied gang in the beloved sitcom Hogan's Heroes. Crane played the colonel with such exceptional charm that he led the show to become one of the best-loved and highest-rated comedies of the 1960s. From 1965 to 1971, he graced millions of American living rooms across the country. Here's a smoother version without listing. This kind of success doesn't just happen. It grows out of perfect timing, real talent, and a personality strong enough to pull people in without even trying. The show itself, set inside a Nazi prisoner of war camp, also called a POW camp, during World War II, was initially highly controversial. Yet, this defiance was precisely what drew viewers in, as Hogan's Heroes offered a defiant cast to root for. At the center of that triumph was Bob Crane. Even his co-star, Robert Clary, who played French POW Louis Lebeau, described his amiable nature on set, noting that Bob's enormous fame never made him difficult. "Bob was a very charming man," Clary said. "He was easy to get along with. He never acted like, 'I'm making much more money than you do, and you better listen to what I'm saying.' That was wonderful." The American public interpreted the man they saw on screen as a devoted family man, a funny guy, and a star. He told interviewers he was a one-woman man. He was as devoted to his first marriage's 3 kids as to his second marriage's son. For much of Crane's 49 years on Earth, this simple picture was the truth people believed. But before the stage lights and the television camera, Crane's heart belonged to rhythm. What most people didn't know was that acting wasn't even his first dream. Music was the spark that lit everything. The steady, powerful beat of the drums laid the foundation for Bob Crane's celebrity music. Wasn't just a hobby. It was the engine of his early life. The moment he heard the legendary drummer Gene Krupa play at the New York World's Fair in April 1939, at the young age of 10, Bob knew what he had to do. He wanted to be a drummer. Bob was already a natural leader in the local music scene by the time he was in middle school. He formed his bands with the neighborhood kids, eagerly teaching his friends how to play the drums so they could march in local parades. High school saw his musical commitment deepen, as his talent earned him spots in the school orchestra, marching band, and jazz band. During his senior year, his talent was so central that his group was known as the Crane Catino Jazz Band. Performing regularly for school functions and gigs in Stamford and neighboring towns like Greenwich, Norwalk, and Darien. His skill even transcended school walls. Friends recalled him playing with the Norwalk Symphony Orchestra during this time, and the Bridgeport Symphony Orchestra, and then the Connecticut Symphony Orchestra, had him performing timpani as part of their school music program. It was this profound love of music and drumming, this deep sense of rhythmic timing, that naturally led him to the dynamic world of radio, the voice of Los Angeles. After graduating high school in 1946, Bob sent audition tapes up and down the East Coast. In early 1950, WLEA in Hornell, New York, gave him his first real break, where he even became program director. He quickly moved to WBIS in Bristol and then to WLIZ, a radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, becoming the area's new town crier. His morning show later landed at WICC, another Bridgeport radio station, also earning him a program director role and early TV experience on Channel 43. But the biggest stage awaited in Los Angeles. In September 1956, he launched his show on KNX CBS Radio, instantly capturing the city's attention. Smart and full of energy, he turned the studio into his playground, making a show that was fun and full of surprises. And once listeners tuned in, they discovered just how wild and playful Bob's imagination could become. Bob's segments were alive with sound effects. He could promote milk by shaking water over a cup, or rate new records with a chicken's egg plop. He earned the title of KNX's Man of 1,000 Voices for the clever gimmicks and voice impersonations he wove into commercials. Crucially, he never left his drumming behind. Wherever he went, his drums went with him, and he often played along with records on air, treating the radio as a stage. His greatest gift, however, was his ability to charm the elite. Bob became one of the premier celebrity interviewers of his time. Interviewing over 3,000 celebrities during his KNX career, Hollywood royalty clamored to be on his show. While they knew they would most likely receive a good ribbing from Crane, they also knew it would bring great visibility to their latest movie, television series, record album, or stage performance, and they vied to be interviewed by him. He quickly grasped the situation and effortlessly put even the most prominent stars at ease in his presence. The tremendous success of his radio show, particularly the celebrity interview portion, brought a flood of offers from producers to host his television talk show. The most glittering opportunity was the chance to guest host and fill in for Jack Paar on The Tonight Show and for Johnny Carson on Who Do You Trust? He was even offered the chance to replace Paar on The Tonight Show permanently. However, the spotlight was not yet set for him. Bob didn't want to transition his radio show to television, and he turned down all the offers. His interest had turned to acting. In 1959, he began performing in community theater, and by 1961, he started taking small television and movie parts. Television became a gentle current pulling him away from the microphone. One of his earliest television roles was a small part on The Twilight Zone, where he played a radio announcer, a subtle, ironic nod to the past that he was trying to leave behind. His career quickly picked up momentum. In 1962, he earned a role on The Dick Van Dyke Show as Hang Lip Harry, a dim-witted neighbor whose kissing technique for a PTA review made all the husbands jealous. Donna Reed noticed his talent and offered him a role on her program. He soon landed a permanent spot on The Donna Reed Show as the nice guy next door. Dave Kelsey Bob led a dual life for 2 years, from 1963 to 1965. He worked 2 full-time jobs, constantly running back and forth between the KNX studio and the set of The Donna Reed Show. With Donna Reed's encouragement, he took a course in acting taught by the renowned Stella Adler in 1964. He had a clear vision for the future, wanting a show very different from the typical father and husband role. He left The Donna Reed Show in December 1964. Soon after leaving his previous television life, Bob was approached about a new series set during World War II. After reading the script, he decided to audition the moment he did a screen test with Werner Klemperer on December 22, 1964. The chemistry, the unseen spark of comic genius, was instant. Bob was offered the title role of the wily American POW spy master on Hogan's Heroes. He didn't just want laughs, he wanted respect, and he figured the veterans were the ultimate audience to give it. As a principled man, Bob insisted on first showing the pilot to veterans. They were so impressed that CBS decided to air the show for the fall of 1965. Hogan's Heroes was a tremendous success, and the show became one of the best-loved and highest-rated comedies of its time. The popularity of the show recognized Bob's talents, and he was nominated twice for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, once in 1966 and again in 1967. While on hiatus from the demanding schedule, he sought comedic roles in film and television to further expand his repertoire. Even after the show's cancellation in 1971, Bob's drive for acting continued, leading him to guest star on various shows, including a dramatic role on The Love Boat in 1978, where he finally demonstrated his skills as a method actor. Away from scripts and cameras, Bob's energy flowed into family time, turning every moment with his kids into a small adventure. At home, his daughter, Karen Crane, saw the loving father behind the celebrity. "My dad was an absolutely typical family man at home," she recalled. "He was always swimming with us, playing with us. I just have wonderful memories of my dad and my years growing up." The only visible crack in this perfect public edifice was his personal life. Crane eventually split with his high school sweetheart and first wife, Ann Terzian. The family man persona crumpled when he decided to marry Patty Olson, who was using the stage name Sigrid Valdis while playing the commandant's secretary on Hogan's Heroes. For years, the world only saw the charming, clever star on TV. However, a scorching summer day in Scottsdale, Arizona, would permanently shatter that meticulously crafted image. What waited behind the locked doors of his apartment would shock everyone who thought they knew Bob Crane, and nothing would ever feel the same again. The night that shocked Hollywood. On June 29, 1978, the day likely began as most summer days did. The temperature a blistering furnace soaring above 100 degrees by noon. The wide streets became as empty as any Southwest ghost town, with well-heeled residents seeking refuge inside their heavily air-conditioned villas. But the day was about to shatter that quiet illusion. An actress's horrified cry broke the terrible silence that afternoon. Victoria Ann Barry, who was co-starring with Bob Crane in a local theater production of Beginner's Luck, was filled with worry. Bob had failed to show up for a lunch meeting, so she went to his apartment at one of the city's complexes. Victoria knocked on the door, but received no answer. When she tried the handle, she found the door unlocked, which was odd for Bob. Stepping inside, she searched the first-floor apartment and soon stumbled upon something terrible. Bob Crane lay motionless in his bed, and the room felt heavy with silence. Victoria immediately called the police. The grim discovery. Local cops arrived at the scene and found a site completely out of place in sunny Scottsdale. The victim was a 49-year-old man, found in bed with severe injuries to his head. He had been in good shape and had salt and pepper hair, but the details of the attack were difficult to make out. The scene showed clear signs of a violent struggle, and the room was marked by the attack. The apartment was leased to the nearby Windmill Dinner Theater. To identify the victim, police called the theater's manager, Ed Beck. Even Beck struggled to confirm the identity, noting the extreme damage to the body. "There was no way I could identify him from one side," Beck told the press. "The other side, yes." The body was identified as Bob Crane, the beloved TV star known to millions as the charming, wisecracking title character on the 1960s sitcom Hogan's Heroes. The man who had entered millions of living rooms as a symbol of clean-cut American heroism had met a shocking end. The shocking discovery. Behind Bob Crane's closed doors. The moment the police began to examine the scene, The bright, clean image of Colonel Hogan began to fade, replaced by a darker, private reality. The investigators, led by Lieutenant Ron Dean and Chief Case Officer Dennis Borkenhagen, noticed several critical things immediately. Crane was discovered in his apartment, and the scene suggested he had been violently attacked while inside. There was no sign of a forced entry, leading police to believe that he knew his perpetrator. Furthermore, there was no sign of a struggle. It appeared as though Bob had met a violent end while he slept, and a robbery was quickly ruled out as a motive, as nothing of value appeared to have been taken. Rather than showing signs of a struggle, the apartment revealed hidden details. The scene hinted at a private side of Crane's life that few had ever seen. The apartment held secrets that were never meant to be seen by anyone outside Crane's inner circle. Among his personal belongings, investigators discovered a black bag that those close to him knew contained items he had carefully collected over time. These were materials he had kept private, artifacts of a life hidden from the public eye. This time, someone disturbed the bag and appeared to take something from it, leaving only questions behind. The police were overwhelmed. At the time, the Scottsdale Police Department didn't have a homicide division. The high-profile exit of a celebrity was a very, very overwhelming task for the local police. With no clear weapon discovered at the scene, investigators faced a frustrating puzzle. They were forced to consider what might have caused the fatal injuries, piecing together clues from the apartment and the objects within it. One possibility they discussed was that some piece of Crane's own equipment, perhaps something as ordinary as a video camera tripod, could have been involved. The man who played a hero in a German prison camp was gone. His hidden private life was revealed through the tapes and photographs left behind in his apartment. The world now knew that the public Bob Crane and the private Bob Crane were two very different men. Was it a fan? Was it a jealous friend? Could it have been something more sinister? The friend who turned foe. After the shocking news of Crane's passing settled over the desert city, the spotlight, once so friendly to Bob Crane, turned dark and harsh on a new face. The prime suspect in his passing was John Henry Carpenter, a man who was once Bob's closest traveling companion and partner in his secret life. Carpenter was a regional sales manager for an electronics chain, an expert in the growing field of video technology. Following his retirement from the United States Army, he took a job marketing this tech, eventually becoming the head of the video wing for a new Japanese company in the United States, later known as Sony. His path entwined with Hollywood due to his growing reputation in the tech world. His skills with video and audio equipment made him a natural ally for celebrities, and this connection would soon intertwine with the life of one television star. In particular, Carpenter and Bob Crane's lives crossed paths during the run of Hogan's Heroes. Actor Richard Dawson introduced the television star Bob Crane to Carpenter. Carpenter was a close friend for a celebrity with private interests, as he often helped famous clients with video and audio equipment. The two men formed a strong friendship that bonded them together. They began going to bars together. Carpenter helped set up Crane's home video system, which became part of their private life together. The friendship quickly became a partnership in shadow. As Bob's fame took him across the country for his dinner theater touring schedule, Carpenter made sure his business trips, working as the national sales manager at Akai, coincided with Bob's dates. They would meet up wherever Bob was performing, like in June of 1978 in Scottsdale, Arizona, where Bob was performing Beginner's Luck at the Windmill Dinner Theater. What did these two friends do? They spent nights out together, socializing at bars and parties, often chasing the excitement of the city's nightlife. What set their friendship apart was the way Crane documented these outings. He captured private moments on camera. Carpenter often joined Crane on his nights out, helping keep track of these personal records. This rhythm would continue up to the fateful days in Scottsdale, just before everything changed. On June 25, 1978, just days before the fatal encounter, Carpenter traveled to Scottsdale to see Bob. Carpenter later said that Bob showed him a personal photo album of people he had spent time with in the 3 weeks since he'd been in Scottsdale. Bob also mentioned hitting it off with his cast member and neighbor, Victoria Berry. After the show, Carpenter went to his hotel room near Bob's apartment and indicated they would meet again. Yet, amid the nights of nightlife and companionship, Bob was quietly preparing to turn a page on his life, seeking distance from the people who had grown too close and too complicated. Bob Crane, who was just 2 weeks away from his 50th birthday, wanted to change his life. His son, Robert Crane, recalled his final conversation with his father. Bob told him, "I am making changes. I'm divorcing Patty." He desperately wanted to lose people like John Carpenter, who had become a pain in the butt. Bob wanted a clean slate. That new beginning never arrived. Robert believes that when his dad tried to pull away, Carpenter, who had followed the star to Arizona, became enraged. Robert testified that his father had complained that Carpenter was becoming a nuisance and a hanger-on, suggesting that Carpenter feared Bob would sever a relationship that provided him with numerous private interactions. Robert claimed they had a breakup of sorts. The friend had been being rejected. He was being spurned like a lover. The Sun reported that eyewitnesses at a club in Scottsdale that night claimed he and John had an argument. Carpenter lost it. Tensions between the two men were building, and investigators quickly turned their attention to Carpenter as a key figure in the unfolding mystery. The investigation quickly centered on Carpenter, especially because of how Crane was fatally injured while asleep and the fact that there were no signs of forced entry. The unlocked door suggested that Bob likely knew the person who came into his apartment. Investigators found traces of blood on the door of the hotel room where the incident occurred. Later, similar blood matching Crane's type was discovered on Carpenter's rental car, specifically on the passenger door. However, the police investigation quickly ran into hurdles. The greatest challenge was that the weapon used was never found. Complicating matters, the apartment had been disturbed by Bob's son Robert and members of his entourage shortly after the discovery, which made gathering clear evidence difficult. Without a weapon or concrete proof, securing a warrant for Carpenter's arrest was a major obstacle. The blood evidence was puzzling and frustrating. A Scottsdale detective had found blood on the inside passenger door of Carpenter's rental car the day after Crane's passing, but testing showed only that it was type B, the same as Crane's. Since DNA testing wasn't available in 1978, no one could confirm it was actually Crane's blood, only that it matched a type found in about 1 in 7 people. While the evidence seemed to point toward Carpenter, it wasn't enough to make a solid case against him. For 16 years, the case remained dormant, awaiting a catalyst to ignite it. In 1990, the case was reopened. Maricopa County Attorney Richard Romley commanded a fresh examination of the county's unsolved deaths, and county investigator Jim Raines seemed to make a breakthrough. In a storage room, Raines found a color photograph he would later wave in John Carpenter's face. The 1978 photo revealed a red speck that previous investigators had overlooked. Despite the inconclusive nature of the blood, prosecutors could easily convict Carpenter if they found evidence linked to Crane in the car. Authorities hailed the speck as the crucial evidence that would secure their conviction. Carpenter was finally arrested and charged with the killing in 1992. But the smoking gun may have been filled with blanks. The prosecution faced a challenging trial 2 years later. Superior Court Judge Gregory Martin warned that a jury might struggle to convict Carpenter due to errors by the police, including mishandling and misplacing key evidence. The defense took advantage of the police blunders to accuse Carpenter's attorney of fabricating the photo of the biological material. The testimony was often riveting, revealing that 2 pathologists who examined Bob Crane's body said the speck wasn't brain matter, but appeared to be biological material that could have come from various parts of a body. Investigators discovered a tiny piece of biological material, a mere speck, inside Carpenter's rental car. At first, it seemed like it could be important evidence in the case, but questions soon arose. By the time photos were taken, more than a day had passed since Carpenter returned the car, and the tiny speck might have dried out or changed in the Arizona heat. Its exact nature was never confirmed, leaving it as a mysterious, inconclusive clue in the investigation. The errors extended beyond a minor detail. In a case with more potential suspects than in an old Charlie Chan movie, investigators focused almost solely on John Carpenter from the start. They ignored or downplayed other leads, such as a furniture mover who claims he saw a man, not Carpenter, leave Crane's apartment in the late morning of June 29, 1978. The intense focus on Carpenter obscured other leads, causing the investigation to resemble a puzzle with missing pieces. Carpenter ultimately stood trial for the passing of his former friend, but he was eventually acquitted 2 years later. Maricopa County Admiral Richard Romley, while still believing they brought the right man to trial, admitted the jury was initially split 9-3 for acquittal, and eventually concluded that there just wasn't enough evidence for the prosecution to fulfill its burden. "I wish we had more than a photograph. I wish we had the tissue. I wish we had the blood from 1978, said Romley. "I'm convinced if that crime occurred today, we'd have much better procedures in place. It would have been different." The chain of friendship was broken, but the chain of justice could not hold the suspect. The question of the friend who turned foe was left to gather dust, locked away in the mysteries of Hollywood's darkest secret, the dark world behind the glamour. Bob Crane's charm was a spotlight that could blind people. Audiences loved the handsome, clean-cut star of Hogan's Heroes, a man so well known for his engaging personality that he won over more than just his viewers. What they didn't know was that this legendary charm was the fuel for an all-consuming personal obsession. Certain circles of Hollywood kept this private life a secret. Bob Crane had a powerful personal fixation before the term was even invented. A married man who pursued romantic encounters with many women over the years. His challenge wasn't just the relationships, it was the camera. He was obsessed with documenting these private moments, often with the women's consent, and sometimes, perhaps, not. Investigators believe that the actor's intense fixation played a major tragic role in the events leading to his passing. It was as if his fame, instead of being a safe harbor, was simply gas on a fire that consumed his personal life. Even as he charmed audiences on screen, the contrast between his public persona and private behavior grew sharper, setting the stage for a life full of secrets and complications. While his co-stars on the set of Hogan's Heroes had only positive words for the star, behind the scenes, Bob was living a double life. During the show's punishing recording schedule, biographers note that his personal obsession became all-consuming. While raising 3 children with his school sweetheart, Ann Terzian, Crane began romantic relationships with 2 different actresses on the show. One of his partners was the actress Cynthia Lynn, who played Hilda. When their relationship came to light, Lynn's husband forced her to quit the show. Patricia Olson, who went by Sigrid Valdez, took her place. Bob began a relationship with Olsen too, and she would eventually become his second wife. But even a new wife did not calm the force of his obsession. According to Reader's Digest, Crane had hundreds of romantic partners during his marriages. This was still not enough. With the help of John Henry Carpenter, the video equipment salesperson, Crane recorded these encounters. The actor also took numerous photos of these relationships and compiled them into books, a detailed catalog of his private life. He was more than pleased to share these recordings and photos with friends and acquaintances. "I'm a videotape nut," he told stage manager Chris Roberts. Behind the charm and laughter that captivated audiences, Crane's private world was quietly expanding, layer by layer, almost like a hidden room being built in plain sight. His son, Robert Crane, claimed that his father's lifestyle was only possible because of his charisma. There were no substances, no coercion, none of that, Robert told Entertainment Weekly. Women just liked him, or found him handsome, or whatever it was. They would connect. But some disagreed, saying the footage suggested some women did not know they were being recorded for Crane's pleasure. Crane's lack of control quickly started to harm his professional life. Production companies like Walt Disney Pictures grew concerned as they made the family-friendly movie Superdad with Crane in 1972. They feared that rumors about the actor's personal habits would impact their movie at the box office. On the set of Superdad, Crane showed photographs he took to people while filming, turning his private life into a known secret in the entertainment industry. The photos and recordings he had collected became a feast for tabloids all over the world, such as the National Enquirer. Robert, his son, suggested that his openness about private material hindered his career as a family-friendly film star, leading to Superdad's underperformance at the box office. Patricia Olsen's words to Robert Crane were a heavy conclusion to his story. Your father's lifestyle caught up with him. The public fascination with Crane's private life didn't just fade. It fueled speculation and rumors that blurred the line between his career and personal choices. While suspicion often fell on Carpenter, other theories have also surfaced about the circumstances surrounding Crane's passing, many tied to his private life. Some think he may have crossed the wrong person, a jealous partner of someone he was involved with, who could have taken steps to erase traces of Crane's activities. Others point to Crane's estrangement from his wife, Patricia Olsen, noting that the couple was in the midst of a divorce at the time, adding another layer of tension to the story. So, what do you think was the most shocking thing revealed about Bob Crane's private life? And knowing all this, were you surprised by how different he was off-screen compared to the charming star you saw on Hogan's Heroes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.